Hello everyone, and welcome again. We've been itching to release this video because we've had so many wonderful and thought-provoking comments. This video is based on one that our watchers left, and it's a question that asks, are you sure the Light Fury is a subspecies and not just a rare mutation? This is a good question, opened up a whole other slew of questions. Since right now it's been perpetuated that the Light Fury has more of her kind, but Toothless is the only one of his, it's fair to ask the question the other way around. What if Toothless is the rare mutation? So, this is what we know about the Light Fury so far. Hiccup and Astrid found this dragon species in the How to Train Your Dragon Hidden World movie. She's the only one known at that point, or the only documented, witnessed one, or having witnessed one. She's known to be a subspecies to the Night Fury. Her scales are white, while Toothless's scales are black. A Light Fury and a Night Fury both shoot plasma blasts, but the Light Fury has a special ability. While Night Furies are able to blend in with the night sky because of the sleekness of their dark black scales, Night Furies amp that up via a cloaking mechanism. A Light Fury scales can become like a mirror to the environment whenever they fly through a blast of their own fire or plasma. Okay, so we know all that, but then we took the contents of another watcher's comments who asked the same question we did. If Hiccup, or the Vikings in general, are seeing a Night Fury for the first time in the flesh, how did they presume to know everything about every Night Fury? And if they've only ever seen this Light Fury in Hidden World, how do they know that she's a subspecies, or that she is not a whole other species altogether, or even that she's not the main species and Toothless is a subspecies or variation? Barring the director of the story and yada yada, let's use some logic here. I know many people hate that word when it comes to their favorite movies, and that's fine, but for those of you who love to have your mind screwed with, think on this. If the people of Berk had such limited mobility as to where they could go, and all they ever knew about dragons was due to the dragons that were ordered by the Red Death to go to Berk and other places to gather food for it, then how could the Vikings come to the conclusion that the dragons they saw was all there was? Okay, that was a lot to swallow. Let's put it in a better way. How do they know Toothless is the last Night Fury? Yes, we already know, the director said so, and the villain in the third movie did, and all that, but as a brief paragraphical side note, this is a theory video being done from the character's perspective. As a writer myself, there's been cases when I've solidified an established truth based on what a character in the story has said, even when it is blatantly obvious to the reader. Other films and works of literature have done the same. A very simple example of this is that of I Am Legend, the movie with Will Smith. The main character, played by Will Smith, I think his name is Neville, swears that due to his findings and research, the zombies are void of any human emotion and are just killing machines, when we clearly see, and this is excluding that alternate ending, that the zombie has emotion on his face, and that the specimen that Neville took was obviously the zombie's girlfriend. It was so obvious to us as the viewers, but Neville died believing he couldn't reason with the zombies because their cognizant faculties were toast. Part of what makes a good story is when the community can glean way after the story has been told, even when the director says otherwise. Some creators will make a statement knowing the readers or audience will search high and low for Easter eggs or other theory values. Okay, side note completed. With all that being said, how do we know that Toothless is the last Night Fury? It is already established in the movie that Night Furies are very elusive, and the only reason why we see Toothless is because he happened to be one of the dragons that the Red Death had in its bondage. It is possible that Night Furies cover huge territories, and Toothless just happened to be in that one with all these other dragons. It is also possible that Grimmel, the villain, only believes he's hunted every Night Fury except for Toothless. It's not established how long Vikings actually live in the movie or how long people live in general, being that the Earth is still a pretty large place and humans have a very limited lifespan in comparison to dragons. It's hard to believe this one man has hunted and killed every single elusive Night Fury. For all we know, that could have been a total of 6. A man saying he's killed every single last white whale means nothing if white whales are so rare that there have only ever been 3 in existence that we only know of. Again, those are only night furies that he knew of. Unless he has a bloodhound for a dragon, and several of them at that, and he's able to take a piece of night fury skin and order those dragons to go to the 4 corners of the earth to hunt down every single night fury to kill, we're pretty dubious as to whether or not this guy actually killed every last night fury. Besides, if adult night furies are so elusive, intelligent, and clandestine, how is it that they fell victim to this twat so easily? He probably had help from his dragon, but it's fair to assume as well that night furies would have adapted to being hunted. Which begs the question, the other question that is it possible that night furies evolved into light furies to better cloak themselves? From a natural selection standpoint, this really wouldn't make sense. Lighter colored creatures, especially in woodland-like areas, have been known to stand out against their background much more than dark creatures. They even did a study of this with a species of moth. In an environment where they mostly populate, this species, or the lighter colored version of the species, became food and easy targets for predators, while the darker ones that blended in more with the forest propagated and became more dominant. So it would benefit an animal being hunted to adapt to a darker color based on its environment. What if Toothless is a mutated version of the Light Fury? Yes, the Light Furies have a cloaking mechanism, but it can only be activated when they shoot their plasma to go through it, which already gives away their presence. A Night Fury like Toothless, however, already has dark scales and usually comes out at night, hence Night Fury. It is very possible that whatever species of dragon the Light Fury and Night Fury are really called learned that whatever was hunting them found them easier in the daytime, and so the dragons that came out at night were a bit safer. They didn't necessarily have to give away their presence by shooting their plasma, and they adapted by developing darker scales that made them basically invisible all the time while under the cover of darkness. They were also much hardier and more rugged than the Light Fury version. Now I know what you're saying. No one knows about a Light Fury, and more people know about Night Furies, especially the Grimmel guy who said he hunted every one. Well, number one, the Grimmel guy and the people on Burke are not the only people on the whole face of the earth. There have been many places where dragons inhabit that humans haven't discovered at that time. Number two, even though the Night Furies are more rare than the Light Furies, it would make sense that they would get captured because a Light Fury, or the Light Furies in general, would be taking extra precautions at that time for being hunted, that they would have probably moved to an area where there were no humans. Feeling safer and better adapted, and possibly less targeted by other predators, more Night Furies would venture out than Light Furies would. Number three, Night Furies are probably not as rare as they seem, and the ones that were hunted and killed were young, like Toothless. Younger dragons would seem to be more ignorant and take more risks than the older ones, so it would make sense if they would be a little less, careful, which would result in them being caught. Number four. Also, people exaggerated a lot back in those times, if you couldn't tell from the descriptions in the dragon book that the Vikings had in the hall. So, them killing 10 Night Furies and never seeing them again for about 20 years would probably mean to them that they've killed them all. They wouldn't consider that the world is so much bigger than they could ever imagine, and even if they had a fleet of ships or dragons, they would not uncover every nook and cranny of this earth in their lifetime, or several ones after that. Number five, if there is an area where Night Furies are abundant, then it makes total sense for there to be a slight overcrowding, or more sensibly, a need for some Night Furies to want to leave and start a territory of their own. During that journey of trying to find their own territory, probably be the optimum time for them to be spotted and hunted down, sort of like when a whale comes up for air. So this video was done basically to provoke thought. Thank you for posting those comments, watchers. It's always fun to theorize on our favorite movies. Also, to tell you the truth, it keeps the hype alive even long after the movie franchise is over. So what do you guys think this time? We want to hear from you. Do you think it's possible that Toothless could just be a variation of the Light Fury that adapted to have black scales because the white scales just stood out too much? Do you think that there's an area that's undiscovered by man or the Vikings that essentially houses a myriad of Night Furies and different breeds of Night Furies even? Let us know what you think in the comments. Also, be sure to check out the links in the description to the artists page that contributed for these beautiful works of art, fan art for Night Furies, and for how to train your dragon in general. Thanks for watching. This has been Alteori. You ask, we answer.